the ultimate Barner.
War Eagle, baby!
War Eagle.
War Eagle, hey!
The lifelong Bammer.
Roll Tide, Bama Nation.
Roll Tide. This is the Tigers and Tide Podcast. All the latest news from Auburn, Alabama, and the SEC. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
All right, welcome into the big podcast, heading into another huge football weekend. We're going to be talking about Alabama with my buddy Jamie Thomas, who is my co-host as always this Friday. How are you, sir?
Good morning and roll tide, buddy. I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. We're going to talk about, I guess, what would be most people are considering Alabama's first real test this year. We'll talk about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. We're going to recap Auburn as well. A quick reminder that we have the new app in the App Store, and I noticed that a lot of our podcast traffic just this week has shifted from listening online to shifting on the app, which is really awesome. You can just search for Tigers and Tide, I think. If you just search Tigers and Tide. If that doesn't work, the link is on our website. Just go to the podcast page at tigersandtide.net. So Auburn was on the road last night. I'm glad I got sick of hearing this game. I got sick of hearing about the Little Apple and all the crap they talked about and how awesome the stadium was going to be and what. I really got sick about hearing about that game. I was so ready for it to be over.
I imagine by the end of the game, you were really ready for it to be over.
Well, let's jump right into it. Right off the top of the bat, I want to say Gus Malzahn threw this in his little post-game press conference that Jermaine Whitehead's suspension wasn't just for that game, that he is suspended indefinitely. I'm assuming he's going to have to meet some kind of punishment or team goals or fix his attitude or...
Yeah, I'm really I'm proud of Gus for taking a stand against that. From what I understand, he got into a confrontation with a coach, and this is a true form of disciplinary action, unlike what we're seeing down the road in Tallahassee a little bit. I think Gus has his priorities in the right place.
One of the big problems, in my opinion, when Chizik was was the conductor and the train was going off the rails, was he had no control over that team. They would do press conferences, and you'd see team members bashing other team members and bashing coaches. And I remember during that time I would watch those interviews with players and go, "What in the hell? Why are you allowing stuff like this to happen?" So, you can't let that happen or it infects the whole team. So, as bad as I hate to see Jermaine, not making trips to games and stuff, that's better than the whole team going to hell. The first half last night, the team looked like it was going to hell. 55 yards rushing the first half. Holy cow. Hats off and credit to that Kansas State defense. Talk about a well-coached defensive line. They were smaller, but, God, they filled their gaps. They didn't miss any assignments. They were there every play and made tackles like you wouldn't believe. They were just an impressive defensive line, much more impressive than Auburn's. They really stopped that run really effectively that first half.
Well, I tell you what stood out to me, Brett. Auburn, I don't know. I mean, they just didn't look like the same Auburn football team. Watching Nick Marshall and Corey Grant. Corey Grant's one of the fastest players in all of football, and it looked like he was moving in slow motion. And I don't know if it was maybe just fatigue from the travel or, having such a week off or so early in the season or what. But, it just seemed like they just didn't look like the Auburn that we're used to seeing right now.
Well, they definitely weren't the Auburn that we've seen for the past year or over a year. One of the things that I was enlightening to me, I don't know if you saw this or not, but McElroy, because they have the camera that's behind the offense, so you can break down what it looks like, and you can't really see that during the game. So I saw a little bit of his show where he was showing where Nick Marshall was just missing that zone read, which you couldn't see watching the game. But he broke down a bunch of those plays where Marshall just made the wrong decision over and over again. Kept it when he should have passed it, handed it off when he should have kept it. So I guess a lot of that, what we saw last night, was Marshall just making really bad decisions, and that's his claim to fame. That's really the only thing he's good at is the zone read and running like nobody's business. So I guess that explains a lot of it. But, again, I don't want to take anything away from that Kansas defensive front, man. They were solid. They were solid right up until the fourth quarter when I think Auburn finally started wearing them down a little bit. which forced Auburn to go to passing. Marshall wasn't impressive, but he got better as the game went on. He was 17 for 31. That's 54%, which is just horrible. Boy, they couldn't catch nobody. Duke Williams couldn't catch a pass. Ricardo Lewis couldn't catch a pass. Sammy Coates couldn't catch a pass. I just never seen anything like it in a long time offensively for Auburn.
Yeah, I saw Sammy drop a couple. Also saw Marshall overthrow a couple of wide open receivers that would turn into real big plays. So I don't know. To me, it's like maybe they've lost a little bit of that swagger they had last year.
The highlight for me, oddly enough, was the defense. Even though we weren't playing an SEC team, they were a pretty good team. The defense looked way better than the offense for most of the game. They only allowed 1.3 yards per carry rushing, which is pretty stifling to hold somebody to 1.3 yards for an entire game. And I think a lot of the reason they had success passing is because I'm pretty sure, and I want to watch a replay again, I'm pretty sure Ellis had those guys playing really soft in the secondary. I think mainly because maybe Jermaine Whitehead was out was one reason. But boy, we were playing a lot of man-to-man and playing 15 and 20 yards off a receiver, which just gave them a ton of buffer to complete those passes that he was completing a lot. Other than that, I mean, my big takeaway from the game is I'm glad to get a win. It was good to be tested, and Nick Marshall's Heisman campaign is over.
Yeah.
So there will be no more talk about that, which in my opinion is a good thing. Let's get back to playing some ball.
Probably a good thing. Yeah, he'll have that distraction behind him. Auburn's got enough to worry about over the next 4 or 5 weeks anyway. A Heisman campaign wouldn't have really been wouldn't be in the talks after 2 or 3 more games of the entire team playing that way.
No doubt. They got some things to fix. So, what are you thinking about your boys this weekend at home, Florida, who, everybody from Muschamp on down was taunting Florida as this is going to be just an amazing comeback year. It doesn't quite look like that, but they're certainly a way better team than last year.
They are better than last year. That team that we saw last year were laid down and tackled themselves a few times against Kentucky last week. I don't know. Muschamp seems to me like maybe he's one of those really good coordinators, but when you look at him as a head coach and you watch what he does on the sidelines, you listen to his press conferences, he just does it. If I were a Gator fan, I'd be wondering, okay, why did we hire this guy to be used? Yeah, I think a lot of folks are doing that now. I think this team, they are improved from last year, but I think they're still, bottom of the division in the East right now. I don't think they're going to be, an 8 or 9 win team this year. I think they're looking at a few losses. One of them against Alabama this weekend. They still got to play Georgia. They still got to play South Carolina. They still got to play Tennessee, who I think has made much more improvement than what Florida has. The game this weekend, I think this is another game similar to West Virginia. I don't think there's going to be much of a challenge. Had West Virginia game been a couple of games in, I think Bama would have handled business a little bit better there. Playing an opponent like that is, always tough the first game. And we're going to see what West Virginia is made out of this weekend when they play Oklahoma. But I just don't see this being, as big as a game as everybody wants to make it. It's the first SEC game of the year for Alabama. CBS is trying to hype it up and make it, that it's going to be a showdown. But, I'm seeing Bama winning by at least 2 touchdowns in this.
Yeah, I should throw some quick questions out there and get your thoughts on it. Do you think we'll see much Coker this week?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be Blake Sims. Unless we do come in and we get up on him, or Blake just makes several mistakes. But he's shown that he's not going to make those mistakes. I think this is Blake Sims' show from here on out. I think he's the quarterback. Bama fans need to embrace that, get behind him, because he's proven that he's the best man for the job on the team right now. I think also, we haven't seen the entire offense. I think we've seen maybe 25 or 30% of the playbook so far, and I think we're going to see that opened up this week against Florida.
I'll tell you what's interesting to me, because I've seen a lot of guys, because we have the article up on the Facebook page and on the website about Sims' QBR rating and how well he's looked from a statistical standpoint so far, and like that. And there's been a ton of. I think that post has over 300 comments on it. And so a lot of the comments I've seen is how Sims ain't done nothing but bubble screens. That's all he can do is a bubble screen. Which is, and this is Alabama fans saying this, but that's kind of an Alabama thing, isn't it?
We got a little spoiled with McCarron, who had the arm. McElroy was good at throwing the deep ball, but this is it's not so much an Alabama thing as it is a Lane Kiffin type deal. This is the kind of offense that he excels at. He wants to get the ball into his playmakers. A wide receiver, Amari Cooper. Gosh, he's a beast, Brett. I mean, he's going to break every receiving record that ever stood at Alabama this year. There's no doubt about that. Unless he gets hurt, he's going to have the most productive season as an Alabama wideout. And that's what Kiffin's doing. He's getting the ball into the hands of his playmakers. Sims is he's a game manager. They labeled McCarron as a game manager. I didn't think that was, fair for what he did, because he could, bust it open with a deep pass. But that's what Sims' job is. He's in there to manage the game. He's in there to make the throws that he needs to make and get the ball into the hands of the playmakers.
Well, see, that's what I have considered it brilliant play calling as well. One, you got a quarterback who's not young, but he's just now starting. He's been a little shaky, but getting better. They want to do stuff that they can trust him really well with. And then the other thing is, which would you rather do when you can do a quick bubble screen or a really safe pass play and get 25 yards because Amari Cooper's so amazing, or throw it for 25, which is a lot riskier? Which would you rather do? To me, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Right now, I say put the ball in the hands of Cooper or Chris Black or DeAndre White when he comes back healthy, and Christian Jones when he's healthy. Those guys are far more capable of making the plays. The swing passers, the Kenyon Drake in the backfield, he's capable of taking it to the house anytime he touches the ball. TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry. I mean, you've got so many playmakers around this quarterback that he's going to really have to make a lot of mistakes in order to lose the game for Bama.
All right, last question. We talked about Florida. They are much improved. What do you think is the best part of Florida's game? Is it their offense or their defense? Which one does Alabama have to worry about more?
I think it's their defense.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
They have, especially their defensive backfield, they have one of the best shutdown cornerbacks in the game. And he's going to be lined up on Cooper. For the life of me, his name is on blank. I can't think of his name, but he's an outstanding defensive player. Florida is fast on defense. They're physical. They're going to challenge that Alabama offensive line. That is the biggest concern for me in this game is how our offensive line is going to handle that defensive line for Florida.
All right, I know you won't do a score prediction, but you did say you think it'll probably be a couple of scores, and it won't be as close as they're trying to hype it up to be. I agree with that. I'm looking at something in the 30-14 range is what I'm thinking it's going to be. Maybe a little less, maybe even 28-14, 30-14, something like that.
Bama's going to have to kick a couple of field goals. That's because that's just what they do. I think it's going to be hard for Florida to find the end zone. They might get one or two big plays against the Alabama secondary. As Bama fans, we're coming to expect that. That's what we've seen for the last year and a half.
Excellent analysis as always, my friend. You got your stuff down. I'm looking forward to watching the game undistracted tomorrow. Since we're at Auburn, that will be the game I'll look forward to watching. And as always, I wish Alabama the best in every game except for when they play Auburn.
Feel free to text as you always do. If it's a close game and I don't respond, you'll understand why.
I completely understand, man. Good luck tomorrow, buddy. More Eagle.
Roll Tide.
Tigers and Tide is a weekly podcast covering football in the state of Alabama and the SEC. We don't claim to be football gurus or talking heads. We're fans just like you. If you like the show, please take a moment to share the link to this episode on your Facebook page. And don't forget to like our page at facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. That's facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. Have a great weekend and War Eagle. And Roll Tide.